Daf Yomi, ay 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 ay. Daf Yomi, Daf Yomi, ay 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 ay. Masechta Shevuos Lamed Hey Amid Aleph, Tractate Shevuos 35a. At the top of the page are the words Lahaki Kazvarach Manai Dus Gavi Shevuos Bitui. V'gam etumos mindus v'godos v'chulan elam v'halan elam v'halan elam v'chaloi elam v'halan elam v'chayav al hamezid kashoheg. The Gemara answers, for that reason, the merciful one writes the verse with regard to an oath of testimony, near the verse with regard to an oath on an utterance, and near the verse with regard to the defiling of the temple or its sacrificial foods. As in all of those passages, it is stated concerning them, and it is hidden. And here, with regard to an oath of testimony, it is not stated concerning them, and it is hidden. The Torah did so to underscore the contrast between them and to deem liable one who takes an intentional false oath of testimony, like one who takes an unwitting false oath of testimony. The Mishnah states, Mashbi'a ani alechem im lo tavou ut'iduni she'amar ish ploni liten li 200 zuz v'lo natan. Harei elu piturim she'en chayavim ela al tvi'at mamon kepikadon. The Mishnah says, if one said to witnesses, I administer an oath to you concerning your refusal to testify, if you do not come and testify on my behalf, that so-and-so said he is going to give me 200 dinars, and he did not give them to me, and they take false oaths, that they have no knowledge of the matter, they are exempt from liability to bring an offering for taking a false oath of testimony, as one is liable for taking a false oath of testimony only in the case involving a monetary claim, like a deposit, in the sense that were the witnesses to testify, the individual would be liable to pay. In the case of a promise to give a gift, he could claim that he merely reconsidered. Mashbi'a ani alechem kishetedu li eidus שתבואו סידוני הרי אינו בטורים מפני שקדנו שבוע לעדוס. If one said to witnesses, I administer an oath to you that when you will know testimony relevant to me, you will come and testify on my behalf, these witnesses are exempt from liability for taking a false oath of testimony, even if they do not testify, due to the fact that the oath preceded their knowledge of the relevant testimony. Amad beis hakneses v'omar Mashbi'a ani alechem shima atem yoidin li eidus v'tavou tziduni harei elu b'turim ad she'mitkaven lahem. If one stood in the synagogue and said, for all to hear, I administer an oath to you that if you know testimony relevant to me, you will come and testify on my behalf. These witnesses are exempt until he directs his demand to specific individuals. Amar lishnayim mashbi'a ani alechem ish ploini shim atem yoidin li eidus shetavou ziduni Shevuos she'en anu yoidin lecha eidus vehem yoidin lo eidus al pi eid echad o shehaya echad mehem koroi v'pasul harei elu beturim. If one said to two people, I administer an oath to you, so-and-so and so-and-so, that if you know testimony relevant to me, you will come and testify on my behalf, and they respond, on our oath, we do not know any testimony relevant to you, and they know testimony relevant to him, not based on an incident they witnessed, but based on hearsay testimony, which is not valid testimony, or if one of the witnesses is found to be a relative or disqualified, these witnesses are exempt from liability for taking a false oath of testimony because they are unfit witnesses. Shilach biad avdo o shamar len hanitba mashbi'ani alechem she'im atem yoidin v'lo eidu shetavo usiduhu harei lo betorin ad sheyishbi'u mipniyat toveha. If the plaintiff sent the demand for their testimony by means of his slave, or in a case where the defendant said to the witnesses, I administer an oath to you that if you know any testimony relevant to the plaintiff that you will come and testify on his behalf, and they took a false oath that they had no knowledge of the matter, these witnesses are exempt from liability for taking a false oath of testimony until they will hear and demand to testify directly from the mouth of the plaintiff. And now, that was the Mishnah. The Gemara, the Talmud says, Tanu Rabbanan mashbi'eini alechem im lo tavo tiduni shomesh ploini liten li 200 zuz v'lo natan yachol yehu chayavin Talmud lo imal techeta gzera shava. The Gemara says, the Gemara cites proof for the halachot in the Mishnah from verses in the Torah. The sages taught, I administer an oath to you concerning your refusal to testify if you do not come and testify on my behalf that so-and-so said that he is going to give me 200 dinars and he did not give them to me. In such a case, one might have thought that they would be liable. Therefore, the verse states the term shall sin with regard to an oath of testimony and shall sin with regard to an oath on deposit, in order to derive a verbal analogy. Here it is stated with regard to an oath of testimony shall sin, Leviticus 5:1, and there it is stated with regard to an oath on a deposit shall sin, Leviticus 5:21. Just as there with regard to an oath on a deposit, the verse is speaking only with regard to a monetary claim, and in the case where the plaintiff has a legitimate claim, so to here, with regard to an oath of testimony, the verse is speaking only with regard to a monetary claim, and in a case where the plaintiff has a legitimate claim. In the case cited in the Braita, and in the first clause of the Mishnah, the plaintiff does not have a legitimate claim. The Mishnah teaches, I administer an oath to you that when you will know testimony relevant to me, you will come and testify on my behalf. Tanu Rabbanan mashbi'ani alechem kisheteidu li eidus kishetavohu usiduni yachol iyu chayavin Talmud lo amar v'shama kol ala v'hu eid o ra'a o yada mi shekad me'eidus Shevuos v'lo kama shvua le'eidus. The sages taught, I administer an oath to you that when you will know testimony relevant to me, you will come and testify on my behalf. In such a case, one might have thought that they would be liable. Therefore, the verse states, and he heard the voice of an oath, and he is a witness, or he saw, or he knew. Leviticus 5:1. One is liable to bring an offering for a false oath only in a case where knowledge of the testimony preceded the oath, and not in a case where the oath preceded knowledge of the testimony. Amad bet HaKnesset Emar mashbi'ani alechem Amar Shmuel afilu eidav beinehen. The Mishnah continues, if one stood in the synagogue and said for all to hear, I administer an oath to you that if you know testimony relevant to me, you will come and testify on my behalf, these witnesses are exempt. Shmuel says that is the halacha even if his witnesses were among the people in the synagogue. Shita. The Gemara asks, isn't this obvious? Lo, tzricha. Tikai alevayu. Tikai alevayu ma'odetema. Kiman di'amalu d'mei kamashmalan. Otherwise, the Gemara asks, isn't it obvious? Otherwise, there would be no novel element in this halacha, in the Mishnah. The Gemara answers, no, it is necessary to cite this case only in a situation where he is standing right next to those witnesses, lest you say he is comparable to one who spoke to them directly, and those witnesses would be liable, the Tana teaches us that until he specifies to whom he is directing his demand, he does not render those witnesses obligated to take an oath of testimony. Tanya Namihachi, the Gemara notes that this is also Tana Braita. Ra asayabit shel bnei adam omrima ve'ayed avneihen v'yolehen mashbi'ani alechem imatem yodin li eidus שצבא יוסידוני יהיו חייבים תמוד לא אמר והוא עד והרי הוא לא יחד עדיו יכול אפילו אמר כל העומדים כאן תמוד לא אמר והוא עד והרי יחד עדיו. The Gemara notes this also on the Brisa. If one saw a group of people standing and his witnesses were among them and he said to the entire group, I administer an oath to you that you know testimony relevant to me. You will come and testify on my behalf. In such a case, one might have thought that they would be liable. The verse states, and he is a witness, Leviticus 5:1. And in this case, he did not specify his witnesses, therefore they are not liable. One might have thought that the halacha is the same, even if he said, I administer an oath to everyone who is standing here, that you will come and testify on my behalf, the verse states, and he is a witness. Leviticus 5:1. And in this case, although he spoke to a group, he specified his witnesses, therefore they are liable. Amar l'shnayim mashbi'ani aleichem tanu rabbanon Amar l'shnayim mashbi'ani aleichem ploni uploni אם אתם יועידין לי עדוס שתבואו וסעידוני והם יועידין לו עדוס עד מפי עד או שאחד מהם קרא פס יאכל יהיו חייבים תמיד לא אמר אם לא יגיד ונשא עוונו בראוין להגדה הכתוב מדבר. The Mishnah teaches that if one said to two individuals, I administer an oath to you, and they know testimony relevant to him based on hearsay, or if one of the witnesses is found to be a relative or disqualified, they're exempt. The Gemara cites that which the sages taught. If one said to two individuals, I administer an oath to you, so and so, that if you know testimony relevant to me, you will come and testify on my behalf. And they know testimony relevant to him based on hearsay testimony, or if one of the witnesses is a relative or disqualified, in such a case one might have thought that they would be liable. The verse states, if he does not state it, then he shall bear his iniquity. Leviticus 5:1, teaching that it is with regard to those eligible for the statement of testimony that the verse is speaking, not for those who are ineligible. Shalach, 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 shalach. Wow, this is a big Amud, man. Wow. Dude. Shalach, shalach, shalach. We gotta pick up the pace here. Hold on a second. Shalom, Yad Abdo, Kulei, Tanu Rabbanan, Shilach Biyad Abdo. Here's my question. Why does it say sometimes the words and then it says Kulei, like Kulo, like the, and then sometimes it says Vichulei? Is there an intention behind that? That's my question. Shilach Biyad Abdo Vichulei, Tanu Rabbanan, Shilach Biyad Abdo, Yehoshua Anitba. משביעני עליכם שאם אתם יודעים לא עדו שתבואו וזידו יכול יהיו חייבים תמיד לומר אם לא יגיד ונשא עוונו. The Mishnah teaches if the plaintiff sent the demand for their testimony by means of his slave, the sages taught if the plaintiff sent the demand for their testimony by means of his slave, or in a case where the defendant also says the witnesses, I administer an oath to you that if you know any testimony relevant to the plaintiff that you will come and testify on his behalf, might one have thought that they would be liable. The verse states, if he does not state it, then he shall bear his iniquity. Leviticus 5:1. Therefore, they are not liable. Ma tamuda Amar Rabbi Elazar im lo yagid ktiv im lo yagid v'nasa avono The Gemara asks, what is the biblical derivation that leads to that conclusion? Rabbi Elazar said the derivation is based on the fact that it is written Im lo yagid. In the verse, the word lo is spelled lamed vav aleph, and interpreted as both not, spelled lamed aleph, and to him, spelled lamed vav. It is derived if the witness who knows the testimony does not state it to the plaintiff, he shall bear his iniquity, and he is liable. But if he does not state it to another, he is exempt. Mishnah, new Mishnah. Mashbi'en yalechem mitzavet ani yalechem osrechem ani harei elu chayav. The Mishnah discusses the formula of an oath of testimony. The plaintiff said to the witnesses, I administer an oath to you concerning your refusal to testify if you do not come and testify on my behalf, or even if he said, I command you, I bind you. Although he did not employ the unequivocal formula of an oath, these witnesses are liable for taking a false oath of testimony. By Shemayim Va'aretz, Harei elu b'tavim be'alef dalet, be'yod hey, be'shadai, be'tzivaot, be'chanun v'rachum, be'achapayim, be'rav chesed, u'v'chol ha'kinuin harei elu chayavim. If one administers the oath to the witness in the name of heaven and in the name of earth, these witnesses are exempt from liability for taking false oath of testimony. That is not an oath in the name of God. If one administered the oath to witnesses in the name of Aleph Dalet, meaning Ado, or in the name of Yod Hey, the Tetragrammaton, in the name of the Almighty Shaddai, some would say Shakai, they wouldn't even say that, in the name of the Lord of Hosts, Tzivaot, in the name of the gracious and compassionate one, in the name of He who is slow to anger, in the name of He who is abounding in loving kindness, or in the name of any of the appellations of God, even though he did not mention the ineffable name of God, these witnesses are liable for taking a false oath of testimony. One who curses God employing any of these names or appellations of God is liable to be executed through stoning. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir, and the rabbis deem him exempt, as they hold that one is liable for cursing God only if he employs the ineffable name of God. One who curses his father or his mother employing any of these names or appellations of God is liable to be executed through stoning. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir, and the rabbis deem him exempt, as they hold that one is liable for cursing his father and his mother only if he employs the ineffable name of God. Hashem Elokim, v'chein yakicha Elokim, zohi ala ha'kesuva b'torah. One who curses himself or another, that's really dumb. He curses himself. One who curses himself, I take that back. You never know why a person would do that. One who curses himself or another employing any of these names or appellations of God violates prohibition. If one says the Lord God shall strike you, see Deuteronomy 28:22, and likewise if one says God shall strike you if you do not come to testify, that is a curse that is written in the Torah, and in such a case one is certainly liable if he fails to testify. Al yakicha v'yivrechecha v'yitavlach. If one says to the witnesses, God shall not strike you, or God shall bless you, or God shall benefit you if you come and testify, Rabbi Meir deems him liable, as one may infer from that statement that if he fails to testify, God will strike him or will not bless or benefit him. And the rabbis deem him exempt because the curse is not explicitly stated. Okay. Next, Gemara. The Gemara says, Masbin Lechem Michael, Mamma Yehuda Hakikon. Masbin Lechem Shevuos, Hamur B'Torah. Mitzavani Lechem B'Sava, Hamur B'Torah. Ois Lechem Ani, B'Yisrael, Hamur B'Torah. The Mishnah teaches that if the plaintiff says to the witness, I administer an oath to you, I command you, or I bind you, these witnesses are liable for taking a false oath of testimony. The Gemara asks, what is the plaintiff saying? He merely said, that he is administering an oath, but he did not say in the name of what he is administering the oath. Rabbi Yehuda said, this is what the plaintiff is saying. I administer an oath to you with the oath mentioned in the Torah. I command you with the command mentioned in the Torah. I bind you with the bond mentioned in the Torah, and in the Torah all of these mention the name of God. All these include and mention the name of God. Amar le Abaye, Ela ha, Detani Rabbi Chia, Kovel Chemani, Hare Elu Chayobin, Kovel Raita, Mikativ. Abaye says to Yehuda, but according to that interpretation concerning that which Rabbi Chia teaches, that if the plaintiff said to the witnesses, I chain you, these witnesses are liable for taking a false oath of testimony. Is chaining written in the Torah? Apparently, the reference in the Mishnah and the Brisa is not similar. Is not too similar language in the Torah. Ela amar Abaye, hachikamar mashbia, ani alechem b'shvua, mitzavani alechem b'shvua, osuchem ani b'shvua, kovelechem ani b'shvua. Rabbi Abaye said that this is what the plaintiff is saying. I administer an oath to you with an oath. I command you with an oath. I bind you with an oath. I chain you with an oath. The witnesses are liable in all these cases, provided that the plaintiff mentions an oath. Be'alef dalid, be'yod hey, be'shadai, be'tzivaot, be'chanun v'achom, be'echapayim, Rav Chesed. The Mishnah teaches one to administer the oath to witnesses in the name of Aleph Dalid, in the name of Yod Hey, in the name of the Almighty, in the name of the Lord of Hosts, in the name of the Gracious and Compassionate One, in the name of He who is slow to anger, or in the name of He who is abounding in loving kindness. These witnesses are liable for taking a false oath of testimony. El Elohecha, Elohim, Elohechem, Eyashe. Some would say Ekyashe, they wouldn't say it all out, but okay. El Aleph Dalid, Yud Hey, Mamish the sixth parsha. We have the site to that he erases the name. Unbelievable. Yud Hey, Shakai, Tzivaot, Hare Elu, Ein Nimchaki. Is that to say that gracious and compassionate are sacred names? Gemara raises a contradiction from a Brisa. There are names of God that may be erased, and there are names of God that may not be erased due to their inherent sanctity. There are names that may not be erased. For example, several variations of the name of God. El, Elohecha, with the second person singular suffix. Elohim, Elohechem, with the second person plural suffix. I shall be as I shall be. Aleph Dalid, and then Yud Hey, the Almighty, with Shin Dalid Yud, Lord of Hosts. These names may not be erased. Aval Gadol, Hagibor, Hanora, Ha'adir, Ve'achazak, Ve'amitz, Ha'izuz, Chanut Rachum, Erech Apayim, Rav Chesed, Harei Elu Nimchakim. But adjectives that describe the Holy One, blessed be He, mean, like, for example, the great, the mighty, the awesome, the prodigious, the powerful, the courageous, the strong, the gracious, compassionate, slow to anger, or abounding in loving kindness. These may be erased. Apparently, gracious and compassionate are adjectives and not actual names of God. How then does an oath or a curse in the name of gracious and compassionate take effect? Abaye said in the Mishnah, it is with regard to one who administers an oath or curses in the name of He who is gracious, and now we're turning to 35b, top of the page, the words B'mi shehu rachum kamar, or in the name of He who is compassionate, that the Tana is stating halacha. Although gracious and compassionate are not names of God, the reference in the Mishnah is to an oath in the name of God. Amar le'Rove ihachi Bashamayim u'va'aretz Nami b'misha shemayim v'aretz shelo kama. Rabbi said to Abaye, if so, in the case of one who administered the oath to the witnesses in the name of heaven and in the name of earth as well, say that it is with regard to an oath in the name of He for whom the heaven and the earth are his, that the Tana is stating the halacha. Why then does the Mishnah say that for an oath in the name of heaven and in the name of earth, these witnesses are exempt from liability? Haki hashta, hasam kevan daleka midi achrinin dik leirachum chanun vadai b'mishu chanun vadai b'mi shurachum koma haka kevan diika shemayim v'aretz b'shemayim v'aretz kama. The Gemara rejects this. How can these cases be compared? Since there is no other entity that is called gracious and compassionate, certainly it is the name of He who is gracious, and certainly it is the name of He who is compassionate that the Tana is speaking by contrast. Here, since there are heaven and earth that exist as independent entities, perhaps when He administers an oath in the name of heaven and in the name of earth, it is in the name of the actual heaven and in the name of the actual earth that He is speaking, and not in the name of He for whom the heaven and the earth are His. I'm not sure why they would talk about the earth as people or individual entities, but at any rate, let's continue. Tanu Abanan Kasav Aleph Lamed Me Elohim Ka Yudhei Me Hashem Hare Ze'eno Nimcha Shin Dalid Mi Shaddai Ela Aleph Dalid Me Adon. And then that name Tzadi Mi Bet Mi Tzibah Ot Hare Ze Nimcha. Apropos, the names of God may be erased, and those that may not be erased, the Gemara discusses the details of the matter. The sages taught, if one wrote the letters of Aleph Lamed from the name Elohim, or Yud He from the Tetragrammaton, his pair of letters, and that pair of letters may not be erased. But if one wrote the letters Shin Dalet from Shaddai and Aleph Dalet from Adon, or Tzadi Bet from Tziva'ot, these may be erased. Rabbi Yossi Omer Tziva'ot Kula Nimcha Shelo Nikra Tziva'ot אלא על שם ישראל, שנאמר והוצאתי את צבאותיי, את עמי בני ישראל, מארץ מצרים, המשמור, אלא לך כרבי יוסי. Rabbi Yossi says the word Tzivaot may be erased in its entirety, as God is called Tzivaot only in the context of the children of Israel, and is not an independent name of God. As it is stated, and I shall bring forth my hosts, Tziotai, my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt. Exodus 7, verse 4. Shmuel says, the halacha is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Tarabanan kol atofel l'Hashem bein min acharav harei ze nimchak. Lefanav ketzad Hashem le nimchak beHashem bet nimchak beHashem vav nimchak beHashem mem nimchak she Hashem she the shin nimchak harei ha the hey nimchak keHashem the chaf nimchak. Okay. The sages taught any letters ancillary to the name of God, whether as a prefix preceding the name or as a suffix succeeding the name, this addition may be erased, preceding it. How so? If one wrote the Tetragrammaton with the prefix Lamed, meaning to the Lord, the Lamed may be erased. The Tetragrammaton with the prefix Bet, meaning by the Lord, Hashem, the Bet may be erased. The Tetragrammaton with the prefix Vav, meaning and the Lord, the Vav may be erased, V'Hashem. The Tetragrammaton with the prefix Mem, meaning from the Lord, May Hashem, the Mem may be erased. The Tetragrammaton with the prefix Shin, meaning that the Lord, the Shin may be erased. The Tetragrammaton with the prefix Hey, meaning is the Lord, the Hey, Ha Hashem, I haven't seen it before. Ha Hashem is the Lord. The Hey may be erased. The Tetragrammaton with the prefix Kaf, meaning likely, I've seen it. Ka Hashem, I've seen it before. The Kaf may be erased. Lacharav Ketzad Eloheinu Zu Nimcha. Elohem, Hem Nimcha. The Hem, also the Nu of Elokeinu, you can erase. Or the Hem of Elohem, can erase Elohim, וכן, נמחק, אחרים אומרים, ולאחריו אינו נמחק, שכבר קידשו השם. אמר רב הונא הלכה כאחרים. Succeeding it, how so? If one wrote Eloheinu, meaning our God, nun vav suffix may be erased, like the new part. Elohechem, meaning their God. Hey, suffix may be erased. Elohechem, meaning your God, second person plural. The kaf, mem, suffix may be erased. Acherim say the suffix succeeding the name of God may not be erased, as the name of God to which it is appended already sanctified it, and it is considered as though it is a part of the name. Rav Huna says the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Acher. Avraham, Delatya, Linavot, Begivat Binyamin, Shlomo, Daniel, Siman. The Gemara brings a simon and mnemonic for the sugis that will follow. Abraham, and then the next one is who cursed Nabiyath. The next one is Gibeah, Benjamin. The next is Solomon, then Daniel. This is a mnemonic for the halacha that follows. Kol Shevuos Toecha be'Avraham Kodesh. Chutz mizeh shehu chol. Shneimar v'yomar Adonai inna matzati chen be'einecha. All names that could be understood as the name of God that are stated in the Torah with regard to Abraham are sacred and are referring to God, except for this name, which is non-sacred, as it is stated, my lords, if I have found favor in your eyes. Genesis 18, verse 3. In that passage, Abraham is addressing the angels who appeared to him in the guise of men, not God. Chanina ben Achi, Rabbi Yehoshua v'Rabbi Elazar ben Azari, Mishum Rabbi Elazar Hamodai Omru, Av Ze Kodesh Giman, Azlak Dem Rabbi Yehuda Marak, גדולה הכנסת אורחין, יותר מהקבלת פני שכינה, כמען כאותו הזוג. Chanina, son of the brother of Yehoshua. I say Chanina ben Achi, Yehoshua. The son of the brother of Yehoshua. And Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, in the name of Rabbi Elazar Hamodai, say this too is sacred. The Gemara asks, in accordance with whose opinion is that which Rabbi Yehuda says, that Rav says, hospitality according to guests is greater than receiving the divine presence. In accordance with whose opinion is that statement, it is in accordance with the opinion of that pair of Tanaim. Hanina, son of the brother of Rabbi Yehoshua, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who understood that Abraham was speaking to God. כל שמות המורים מלאות חול חוץ משם שהוא קודש שנאמר ויאמר לוט עליהם אל נא אדוני הננה מצא עבדך חן בעיניך וגומר מי שיש ידו להמיס ולחיות זה הקדוש ברוך הוא. All names that could be understood as the name of God that are stated in the Torah with regard to Lot are non-sacred and are referring to angels, except for this one, which is sacred, as it is stated, and Lot said to them, please, not so, Adonai. Behold, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have magnified your mercy, that you have performed for me by saving my life. Genesis 19, 18 through 19, is apparent from the context that Lot is addressing he who has the capacity to kill and vivify, that is the Holy One of Asbihi. Okay. Wow, it's a big daf. That is the Holy One, blessed be He. Kol Shemos Amurim bin Avois Kodesh b'micha chol Rabbi Eliezer Omer ben Avois Kodesh b'micha yesh mehen chol v'yesh ben Kodesh. Aleph Lamed chol Yod He Kodesh chutz mizeh she'Aleph Lamed shehu Kodesh v'hu Kodesh Kol Yemei Hayos Beit HaElohim b'Shilo. All names that are stated with regard to Naboth are sacred. For example, in the verse, Naboth blasphemed Elohim and the king, in 1 Kings 21:13. And those stated with regard to Micha are non-sacred and are referring to the graven image that he fashioned. See Judges chapter 17 and 18. Rabbi Eliezer says, indeed, all names that are stated with regard to Naboth are sacred, but those stated with regard to Micha, some of them are non-sacred and some of them are sacred. The names beginning with the letters Aleph Lamed, like Elohim, are non-sacred, okay? As the reference is the idol. Sometimes idols are called Elohim Echerim. Okay, reference to the idol that he crafted. And all the names that beginning with the letters Yud and Hey, for example, in the Tetragrammaton, are sacred. Only one example, right? Meaning, it means, except for this name that begins with the letters Aleph Lamed, and it is sacred, all the time that the house of Elohim was at Shiloh. Judges 18:31. Kol Shevuos Hamon Megivas Binyamin. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Chol, Rabbi Yehoshua Omer Kodesh. All names that are stated in the passage concerning Gibeah of Benjamin, where the rest of the tribes consulted God to determine whether they should go to war against the tribe of Benjamin. See Judges chapter 20. Rabbi Eliezer says they are non-sacred, as they were consulting an idol, not God. Rabbi Yehoshua says they are sacred. Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer said to Rabbi Yehoshua, how can you say that those names are sacred? Does God promise and not fulfill the promise? Twice the tribes received the response to go to war against Benjamin, and twice they were vanquished. Amar lo Rabbi Yehoshua, ma shevtiach asa behendo yichanu im lenetzoach im lenatzeach be'achrona shvichanu iskimu al yadan shenema ופנחס בן אלעזר בן אהרון הכהן עומד לפניו בימים ההם לאמור האוסיף עוד לצאת למלחמה עם בני בנימין אחי עם ארדן וגומא. Rabbi Yehoshua said to Rabbi Eliezer, that which God promised he fulfilled. In each case he responded to the question. The first time they consulted God through the Urim to him, but they did not seek to ascertain if they are to triumph in the war or if they are to be defeated. And the last time they consulted God through the Urim Tumim, were they sought to ascertain whether they would emerge triumphant, they consented in heaven to their endeavor, as it is stated, and Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aharon, was standing before it in those days, saying, shall I yet again go out to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother, or shall I cease? And the Lord said, go up, as tomorrow I will deliver them into your hand. Judges 20:28. Kol Shlomo Hanon b'shir Hashirim Kodesh. Shir L'misha Shalom Shelo. חוץ מזה, כרמי שלי, לפניי האלף אחד שלמה. שלמה לדידי ו200 לנוטרים את פריו. רבנן יש אומרים, אב זכוי, הנה מידתו של שלמה 60. All mentions of the name Shlomo that are stated in the Song of Songs, such as the Song of Songs that is Shlomo's, the Song of Songs 1:1, are not references to King Solomon. Rather, they are sacred, meaning a song to the one for whom peace is his, except where it is mentioned, my vineyard, which is mine, is before you. You, Solomon, shall have the 1,000, meaning 1,000 are for Solomon himself, and 200 are for those who guard its fruit. Okay, 200 are for those who guard the fruit of Song of Songs 8:12, which is a reference to the sages. And some say this verse 2 is not sacred. Behold, the bed of Solomon, 60 mighty men are around it, which is in Song of Songs 3:7. Afzeh, lomi bayhaech, ela, chad mishmu malchuti, dekad lechad mishita, meyarvado me'ansha, shne makam nishli lefanai, lefechash shelamo, lemalchuta lerekia. ו200 לנוטרים, כדי למלכות דערה, The Gemara asks, does this mean this verse 2 is non-sacred? And is it not necessary to say that the verse cited earlier is non-sacred? But that which Shmuel says, a monarchy that kills one of every 6 individuals in the world is not punished for doing so, as that is the prerogative of a monarch. As is stated, my vineyard, which is mine, is before you. You, Shlomo, shall have the 1,000. This is a reference to the monarchy of heaven, and 200 for those who guard its fruits. This is a reference to the monarchy of earth. Of the 1,200 mentioned in the 2 parts in the verse, 200, or 1/6, are the prerogative of the earthly monarch. Shmuel, who interprets the mention of Shlomo in this verse as referring to God, holds neither in accordance with the opinion of the first Tana, nor in accordance with the opinion introduced with the term some say. Both Tanaim agree that the reference in the verse is to Solomon and not to the Holy One, blessed be He. Ela hachikamar yesh oyim kodesh v'zeh u'chol mitzvot demitato u'shmuel damar yesh oyim. Rather, Shmuel cites a different version of the opinion introduced with the term some say, according to which this is what it is saying. And some say this Shlomo that appears in the verse with regard to the 1,000 is sacred, and that Shlomo that appears in the verse with regard to the bed of Solomon is non-sacred. And it is Shmuel who states his opinion in accordance with the opinion introduced with the term some say. Kol melachai hamoim b'Daniel chol chutz mizeh shu kodesh ant malka melech malchaya di Allah shmaya malchutav chisna v'takva v'yikarav Yehoshua. All kings that are stated with regard to Daniel are non-sacred except this one, which is sacred. O you, O King, King of kings, unto whom God of heaven has given you kingdom, the power, and the strength and the glory. Daniel 2:37. Yesh oimrim av ze kodesh shenema marichel ma lisanecha ubishrelach למען כאמר איסר כדאיתך לנבוכדנצר כאמר לסלעותי מאי נינו ישראל מילת כלאית להו לישראל. And some say this too is sacred, as it is stated, my Lord, the dream shall be for your enemy and for its interpretation, and its interpretation for your foe. Daniel 4:16. To whom is Daniel saying this? If it enters your mind that when Daniel says, my Lord, it is to Nebuchadnezzar, that he's saying it, his enemy, who are they? They are the Jewish people. Would Daniel curse the Jewish people? V'tanya kama sofer sonei Yisraelika goyim leka. And the first Tana understands that Daniel is referring to Nebuchadnezzar. Holds, are there Jewish enemies for Nebuchadnezzar and there are no Gentile enemies for him? Daniel's cursing the Gentile enemies, not the Jewish enemies. The mission teaches, or if one administer the oath to the witnesses in the name of any of the appellations of God, even though he did not mention the ineffable name of God, these witnesses are liable for taking a false oath of testimony. לעלה ולשבועה. מה אתה אומר? ולא קודם משביע הכהן איש שבשבוע סעלה. מה בשצוק פרשה? וואו. לפי שנאמר בשם הכל עלה, נאמר כאן עלה. ונאמר עלה להלן שבועה, אף כאן שבועה, מעלן בשם, אף כאן בשם. And the Gemara raises the contradiction from right that cites the verse, the Lord shall render you as a curse and as an oath. Numbers 5:21. Why must the verse state this? Isn't it always stated at the beginning of the verse, and the priest shall administer to the woman with the oath of cursing, due to the fact that it is stated with regard to an oath of testimony? And you heard the voice of an Allah. Leviticus 5:1. One may infer Allah is stated here that with regard to an oath of testimony, and Allah is not the Muslim word for God, Allah, just the word Allah. Allah, meaning a swear, an oath. Allah is said there with regard to a sota, just as there with regard to a sota, the reference is to an oath. So here with regard to an oath of testimony, the reference is regard to an oath, just as there at the end of the oath is administered in the name of God. So to hear an oath is administered in the name of God. This is contrary to the Mishnah, where the ruling is that an oath of testimony may be administered even in the name of the appellations of God. Amar Abaye, like Kashya. Hoy v'yom Torah ishbiya v'yal tishava kaleb v'yal tikalel ma'ashava b'shem aflo tishava b'shem kalel b'shem aflo tikalel b'shem. Abaye said, this is not difficult. This brayta is the opinion of Rabbi Chanina bar Idi, and that Mishnah is the opinion of the rabbis. As it's taught in brayta that Rabbi Chanina bar Idi says, since the Torah says in some cases, take an oath, and in some cases, do not take an oath. And it says in some cases curse, and in some cases do not curse. Just as when the Torah says take an oath, it is in the name of God, so too when the Torah states do not take an oath, it is in the name of God. And just as when the Torah states curse, it is in the name of God, so too when the Torah says do not curse, it is in the name of God. The Gemara asks, and the rabbis say, if they derive an oath of testimony from sota by means of a verbal analogy, let us require that both an oath of testimony and the curse will be specifically in the ineffable name of God. If they do not derive an oath of testimony from sota by means of a verbal analogy, from where do they derive that the instance of the word Allah that is written with regard to an oath of testimony is an oath? Nafka lehu midetanya Allah ein Allah ela lashon shvuah. Achinu omer yishbiya kohen et isha b'shvuah ta'ala. The Gemara answers they derive it from that which is taught in brayta, and it is written with regard to an oath of testimony, and he hears the voice of an Allah. Leviticus 5:1. Allah is nothing other than an expression meaning oath, and otherwise it says, and the priest shall administer to the woman with the oath of cursing. Allah. Numbers 5:21. Okay. Asum Shevuos Allah ksiv hachi kamar ela ein ala ela shua v'cheinu omer v'ishbiya kohen et ha'isha b'shvuah Allah. The Gemara asks, it is not merely Allah that is written there. The oath of an Allah is written there. Apparently Allah does not mean oath. The Gemara explains that this is what the Tana is saying, and he hears the voice of an Allah. Allah is used only when accompanied by an oath. And otherwise it says, and the priest shall administer to the woman with the oath of cursing.